2, 1. Sage Cornelius.
We're here.
What is up, man?
We're here.
I've heard a lot of great things about you. You're a talented dude.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, of course. Before we get started, I want to give a little shout out. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, but to Kenny.
Yeah.
Kenny Riley, man.
Mr. Kenny Riley.
I get a call. I'm going back to my office from lunch, and I get a call from him. He goes, "Hey, man, it's Kenny. Man, how's it going? What's up, sir? What can I do for you? How you doing?"
That's how he sounds, too.
Yeah. He goes, "Hey, I got this real badass guy in the studio with me right now. He needs to get on your podcast now." I'm like, "I'm at work, but like, give me his information, and I'll get in contact." Like, yeah, he's a guy that makes heavy metal on a fiddle, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's good. That has to happen.
Yes, sir.
That needs to happen."
Heck
so, like, where do you want to start? Like, you said you've been doing music for, you said 25 years now?
About 25 years of life, yeah.
Holy shit.
Before I get into all of that, shout out Kenny Riley, Mr. Kenny Riley. He's probably going to be watching this, so. And I got a story about Mr. Kenny here in a little bit. You hear that, Kenny? I got a story about you. I'm going to tell him the truth. Anyway, I started violin at 8 years old, and I heard The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and I was riding my grandpa's 87 murdered out black El Camino. Nice. And we're going to the store, and I heard that song, and just the duality of the styles, you know, of like the devil solo sounding scary, and it's all scratchy, and it's like all this chaos, and then right afterwards Johnny solo comes in, and it's almost like super righteous and huge and almost angelic, you know. It's like this instrument can do both. You know what I mean? And so that's why I was like, dude, the fiddle is where it's at. Like, I don't know what it is. It was either that or saxophone. Okay. And I wanted to learn, like, the Pink Panther theme song. I heard someone play it at recess. Someone had their saxophone out. And it was like...
Where did you go to school? Holy shit.
This is in Topeka, Kansas. Northeast Kansas. Shit. So, like, I kind of grew up... Like, it was, like, old people neighborhood when my parents moved in. But, like, as, like, I started getting around 4th grade when we started to move, it started kind of turning into the hood. So it was like, it kind of sucked because from kindergarten to 4th grade, I made all these friends, and then I had to leave and then go to this other place where I was raised out in the country, and it was like the complete opposite, you know. Yeah. There was like a lot of like, you know, people of color, you know, a lot of Mexican people, you know, African-American people.
Out in Kansas?
Yeah.
Mexicans out in Kansas?
They do. The Mexican food out in the Midwest is the best, okay? It even gives some places here a run for their money, so don't come for me.
That's crazy. Huh?
Yeah, for real. So anyway, it was like this funny thing of growing up as a native, not really being like the community being close by, but, you know, learning like kind of how to adjust, I guess, especially coming and living in like a rural area. You know, where there's a lot of farmers, more white people, you know. But, like, I was fortunate in that when I picked up violin, it was, I already kind of knew, for some reason, it was like something already told me I knew how to play this instrument. And through that, you know, I made lifelong friendships through music that transpired, like, you know, whatever background my friends may come from. You know what I mean? Like, I was friends with everybody through music. And that's one thing that I'm, like, super grateful for. And I navigated, like, you know, my parents would, like, have me include me on, like, native ceremonies. And I got named. And there was, like, that aspect of my culture. But it was, like, I had to live 2 different kind of lives. Like, there was a time to be native, and there was a time to just to be kind of a hillbilly out in the sticks.
Were there any like members of your family that played music or anything like that?
My dad was a big Van Halen fan.
Okay.
So it was always like hearing Eruption, like as a kid growing up, you know. And Van Halen would always be like playing throughout, like where we're cleaning the house or having barbecue cookouts. Like always hearing like a shredding guitar, you know.
We're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna a piece of tech just fell off the desk. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
No. It falls like off like once every 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Just get under here real quick to your right.
Alrighty.
Yeah, no, you're good. It's nothing you did. It's just the place is held together by command strips.
Oh, okay. Word. Just gotta stick it back on there with force.
Yeah. There we go. All right, we're good. Yeah. No, just. Because it'll just fall off every now and again.
No worries.
Yeah. Anyway, when I move into, because I'm making the move this weekend between Friday. The goal is to be completely done by Saturday.
Yeah.
At least with the moving part of it. I don't know how much the setup is going to work, but the goal with the new place is to have everything a lot more secure than with fucking command strips. But anyway, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by the amazing people over at Chop Chili Company. Guys, they are the original sponsor of this podcast, and I could not be happier to continue to be working with these guys. I get it. It's New Mexico. Everyone loves red, green, both. But this genuinely is my favorite brand of chili here in the state of New Mexico, and I love being able to partner up with these guys. They are absolutely phenomenal. Zane and the rest of the team at Chop Chili do an amazing job running that company, and they make an absolutely phenomenal product. And right now, they are running a very special promotional on their Instagram. Go check them out on Instagram. Go give them a follow. And as they post pictures with the hashtag Where's My Chili Challenge, if you can guess where in New Mexico that picture was taken, you can win not only free red or green chili, but also a free custom t-shirt directly from the company themselves. Again, go check them out on Instagram, give them a follow, check out their hashtag Where's My Chili Challenge. Win yourself some free chili, win yourself some free shirts. They are also available in Smith's, Albertsons, Sprouts, and a ton of other grocery stores in the state of New Mexico, as well as El Paso, and they are expanding out to West Texas. Again, thank you so much to Zane and the rest of his amazing team over at Chop Chili. Back to the episode.
You get a long way with command strips.
This is well, you know,
you get a long way with command strips.
You would hope so, but shit happens. So what I'm curious about, because you, at least for me anyway, like, you don't really think a whole lot. When we think about Kansas and we think about the South, you don't really think reservations.
Right.
Are there a ton of reservations out there? Or is there any reservations?
There are.
Okay.
But where I lived in Kansas, it was like, they were very small. Okay. We had the Prairie Band Potawatomi Reservation that was north of Topeka. And so we go up there and like do all of our doings and stuff. And whatchamacallit. Yeah, like I said, there was a time for that. And there was a time to like, the more I wore it on my chest, the more I'd get made fun of because I was like the only native where I lived and the area. We used to have like our drum group practice, and like they would call the cops on us, and because they didn't know what the hell was going on.
Where were you having your practice at?
This would be like right outside our house in the middle of the country.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and it'd be like our nearest neighbor would be like a half mile away.
Why are they calling the cops on you?
Because they don't know what the hell's going on. They're scared. They're like, what the hell? There's a bunch of wild Indians over here. Someone call the sheriff.
What the
Look, Paul, Indians are coming.
What the fuck? What would the cops say when they showed up? Do you remember?
They would just be like pissed that they had to come out. They'd be like, why are we here? Right. Well, if we hear it again, then we're taking people to jail. And, my dad was always courteous to them. You know what I mean? Like, he wanted to give him the bird, but he was always just like, yeah, man. But, if we're having drum practice, it's like, we're not hurting anybody. We're just banging, we're just hitting our drum and singing our old songs, And it was just kind of funny that my family was the one to bring that out there where that probably didn't happen a lot,
So more of like a clarifying question. Were you growing up, you said you grew up in the country. Were you on a reservation, next to reservations?
So the nearest reservation to where I grew up, which was south of Topeka, which is in Barrington, Kansas, coincidentally also is where Mr. Kerry Livgren from the band Kansas, who wrote Dust in the Wind, played guitar and the organ, the keys. Yeah. He lived in Barrington, Kansas too.
Oh, shit, okay.
Which is pretty cool. It was like a legend was living up, and it was just like a rinky-dink, country town, and it was very beautiful. But the closest reservation was probably like an hour away north, or maybe about 45 minutes. So, my dad was raised out in Tecumseh, Kansas, on the 785, and so he's a country boy. So that's how I was raised, out in the country. Right. So I'm grateful. I'm glad my parents moved out to the country because it's just like from kindergarten to fourth, I was in the city, and I was granted that perspective. And then from fifth grade till I graduated high school, that's when I was like out in Farmerville.
Well, growing up quiet like that and growing up in a more rural area, I never grew up like that. I mean, I grew up here in Albuquerque. Yeah. Closest, I didn't live in anywhere rural. I mean, I grew up in the South Valley a little bit, but that's not rural, obviously. You got chickens running around, but it's not rural. But it's growing up like that, I'd imagine you learn a lot about yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have a lot of family time. You learn about your family, especially with a Native American heritage. Like, obviously, I'm not a part of that, but like just outside looking in, family and history and tradition is super important.
For sure.
So being able to have that in general, but then have that in an isolated environment, I'd imagine. Did you like looking back on it? You had like a more enriched experience with that? Like you're able to actually have time to learn about stuff like that rather than just being because there's something about living in a city where you just get wrapped up in everything.
Right.
Things are always happening. You're always moving, always going. But then we just drive out to the country and it's like,
right, life becomes simple.
oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you feel like that was a part of your life, like looking back on it?
Oh, 100%. And that's something that I'm grateful for because like being raised outside of my element like taught me how to wear my identity and my pride on the inside. And I didn't have to like for a second there, like in grade school, I felt like I had to prove who I was to these people who didn't know like about, Native stuff, Native heritage at all. And then I would get made fun of by the bullies,
Right.
like they'd be like, oh, you proud of that? Well, we're going to poke you now. We're going to make fun of you for that. And now it's like, I know who I am, growing up and realizing that. And now it's like, if people, want to make jokes, and if they're not being politically correct, you can tell where someone's coming from,
Yeah,
you can tell if there's malice in it or not, if they're like actually trying to be bigot assholes or can I cuss on this?
Oh, yeah, fuck
A
it.
little bit. Okay.
Look at the logo. I don't think this is the most PC.
Yeah.
Fucking.
No matter how I look at it, we all know where we've seen that logo.
Which is why we're doing a rebrand coming soon.
That's right. Sinners.
But no, it's just no. You can tell, man. Like any even kids, but like any adult with half a brain on them, you can tell if somebody's coming from the right place or they're just being a prick.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, you can tell. There's a level of human intuition, and there's a level like, okay, you're just being an asshole.
Exactly, for sure. And that's something that like growing up with like redneck friends, it's that distinction was quickly made, and like I walk and my homeboys who are now my band and close friends around that, they, it's like free game, it's like,
Well, that's different. That's a part of being a dude.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a part. Dudes can't hang out unless you can start shitting on each other.
For sure.
And as the relationship grows, as the friendship grows, more and more things become, not off limits.
Exactly, 100%.
Everything becomes fair game.
Hell yeah.
If the group chats between me and my friends, even like direct messages between me and my friends, text messages between me and my friends got leaked, we'd be fucked.
Yeah,
The horrendous things we say to each other just to make each other laugh. Like, it's not cool. Even if this house was bugged, the shit that me and my roommate would tell each other just to make each other laugh is not good.
Right, exactly. Right. You say that behind closed doors, but you know where you're saying it, but you dare not say that out in public.
Well, right.
Like, oh my God, if you did though. I know some people like that who just say it. And I'm like, I respect it, but I'm like, oh my God, you're insane.
So, you're telling me you know how to fight. All right, sounds good. Sounds good, man.
Yeah. Or
what I'm curious about is, growing up in that part of the country, growing up Native American. I mean, you mentioned a little bit now, just saying that, how you got picked on a bit, how you were, there's a time to be Native American, time to be whatever. Like,
yeah.
Were you obviously you're conscious of when you're getting made fun of, obviously as a kid, but like, were you conscious of like how Native Americans were being looked at, how they're getting treated as a little kid, or is that something you slowly, like, as you were growing up, you're realizing like, oh yeah, this is like being a part of a minority group. This is what social interactions are looking like in this part of the country and stuff like that. Like, and then when you look back on it, like, what do you pull out of that for now?
Yeah, I think I did, because like my folks were definitely good about letting me know what's up, but like not making me subscribe to anything.
Because
young.
Are both of your parents Native American?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my mom's Dene Navajo. She's from Shiprock, and my dad's family are Oneida and Potawatomi. Okay. So a little bit are from the northeast Kansas area and the Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Interesting.
So yeah, and so it makes me a mutt, just like everybody else. But yeah, I don't know, man. I remember like watching Peter Pan and seeing like you know, we're off to fight. We all sung the words, okay? And then, and I go back and rewatch that. And of course, like, I loved Disney as a kid. I think we all did, and I just wasn't young enough to understand that. And I was just kind of like, that was like 6 years old, and around like 8 to 10, that's kind of where I started thinking like, oh, okay, like I know what racism is, and it makes me sad.
Well, and especially like with those like those types of movies and like the cartoons from those were coming out between like the 30s and the 50s, and a bit in the 60s too. Maybe like between the 30s and the 50s, like the old Disney stuff, Looney Tunes especially. Like looking back at all of that. Even now I wonder, like, okay, obviously that was acceptable back then. Like the depictions of different minority groups, like that was acceptable. And I really do wonder how much of that was like real racism by the creators and how much of it was playing for a laugh. Because I remember, I'll watch, cause I've got like HBO, so I'll like turn on like Looney Tunes random like in the background while I'm like working on the podcast, trying to write or whatever I'm doing.
Right.
Even like while I'm eating, I'll just fucking throw something on because they're like 8-minute episodes.
Yeah.
And they make fun. Obviously, the people that get made fun of the least are white people, but like it's interesting looking at that and thinking, like, I wonder how much of this was like actual racism,
right?
And then how much of this is like they're just playing this for laughs. And back then, you're allowed to do that. Like you can still make racial jokes now. You can still make racial humor now and ethnic humor now, but you have to be a lot smarter about it. You have to make it more like well written doesn't really describe it properly, but you have to do it the right way.
It has to be delivered properly.
Exactly. Yeah. And then even stuff, I mean, the people who get away with it
and
the
even
best
then, you could still end up on the fucking firing line.
Unless you are Trey Stone and Matt Parker creating South Park.
Yeah.
Those guys get away because they're the best at it, but they get away with everything. With the exception of them, you obviously can't do anything to the tune of what like Looney Tunes or Disney was doing back then.
For sure.
So
and shout out to them, because I actually talked to this recently with my girlfriend, talking about like how do they survive so well, like through the years, and she was just like, because they make fun of everybody. Yeah, everyone, no one's safe.
Well, I think it's funny because me and my chick were she knew about South Park before dating me. Like she never really watched it, but she knew about it. And over the course of our relationship, I've been like slow drip. Hey, you should watch this episode real quick. Maybe a couple months later. Hey, you should watch this. Maybe a year later. Hey, this one's really funny. But now we've actually sat down recently, and I'm showing her, because I've seen I've watched the whole series. Right. So we're watching it all the way through from season 1.
That's awesome.
And it's crazy. I think yes, they get away with it because they make fun of everybody. But I think, like you said a little bit earlier, the delivery, when you deliver it through these, at the time in the show we're watching right now, the third graders. So when you're delivering it through the vehicle of third graders, because South Park is effectively a third grader's view of the world. There's fucking aliens and a robot Barbara Streisand, and Jesus has a talk show. Like it's bananas.
Right.
But because it's delivered through the eyes of a third grader, and they're cussing at each other, and they're making horrible jokes, and the adults around them are stupid. It's like, okay, so none of this is meant to be serious. Absolutely. Like one of my favorite episodes is in one of the earlier seasons where the devil comes to South Park, and he has a boxing match with Jesus, and the devil's this big jack dude, and Jesus is kind of some regular guy, and the entire city bets on the devil. But the devil bets on Jesus. Yeah. And the devil throws the match. And he goes, yeah, no shit. What did you think I was going to do? So it's like stuff like that where it's like, okay, yeah, none of this is meant to be serious.
For sure. But a slight comment on social on where we're at in our culture. Yeah. I think that's rad. And like the reason it's funny, because I wanted to talk about music, and here we're talking about this kind of stuff, which is funny. But I feel like the only reason I said that is just because like it was like learning how to navigate that as a young kid, and being like the only native dude around, let alone maybe even person of color, right? And that's all. I feel like that's very integral to the story, because like when I start picking up fiddle and I start finding myself in areas where I was like around straight up hillbillies, dude, like not Deliverance hillbillies, thank God. Those are different kind of banjos, but they were cool. All right.
I don't think people today appreciate how wild of a movie that is.
It's insane.
And especially for when it came out.
Of nightmares.
Well, but that was also like the height of Burt Reynolds' career.
Yeah, he
was the dude and he's getting butt fucked by hillbillies.
Was he? Did that happen to him? I thought it was only like one of the other dudes.
No, it's been a few years since I've seen that movie, but I'm like 99% certain. I know he gets assaulted in one way or another, but I'm pretty sure he gets raped by a hillbilly in that movie.
Oh yeah. Maybe I just like tuned it out because I was
I don't blame you.
Watching it and being like, holy shit, this is terrible.
It's wild.
Yeah, and then so like imagine that. Okay, so you've seen that movie, and then you get invited to a bluegrass jam that's like way back in the sticks, and you go, and then the paved road turns to a dirt road. Yeah. I'm like, all right, and the map quest says to keep going, and I'm like, oh my god, what the hell? And then the dirt road turns into a mud, just like a place where trucks just drive through the mud. And I'm like, where the hell am I, dude? I'm gonna get shot back here. And so like I would pull up to a house, I remember, and I thought it was the place. I didn't freaking know at this point because I'd have like no service, and so I would just be kind of guessing. And I remember I just like, all right, there's very few places back here. It's probably this house. Pull up to this house, and like 4 dogs come out, and they're just like on the side of the car, and I'm like, I'm gonna get shot. I'm gonna get shot trying to play fiddle at a music jam. That's what's gonna happen. And I go around the corner, and the dogs, thank God, they don't bite me. Turns out they were total sweethearts. But I go around the corner, and like I see friends gathered with their instruments, and I see a big old pot of stew that they're cooking, and they have their beers and whatever else you will, and they're like ready to play music. And then everyone greeted me so warmly. They were like, Sage, you bring your fiddle? And I'm like, hell, damn right I did. At this point, it's just like, not just a jam, it's for my own protection. You know what I mean? I'm like, don't shoot, I can play No One Down in Georgia. So, like, that was like my background to a lot of, learning violin and also stepping outside of the orchestral realm when it came to like jamming with people and like having that organic community of like, like I go out there and people would be like having Confederate flags on their garage, and there would be people there making fun of those guys, like other white dudes making fun of other white dudes, being like, why do you got that shit up on there? What's that mean? And they're just trolling them. It's a thing of culture, and like I didn't feel like, just because I saw that I shouldn't associate myself with them, like if they were racist people, then they wouldn't allow me into their house and like eat food with them and stuff. You know what I mean? And I further knew these people, and I'm like, man, I don't know. There's a lot of, there are shitty people out there, right? There are people that are very ignorant and base a lot of what they say on that, where they're just like, they have a limited understanding. But I don't know. I don't feel like we should ostracize ourselves completely when it comes to that sort of thing. I don't know.
No, of course
I don't want to get too political about it, but I
don't think that's politics at all, man. I think that only becomes politicized. Well, the reason it's politicized is because of just, in my opinion, it's like media and like the corporate media and just narratives that get driven out. Because you're right, you shouldn't be alienating yourself from. Now, granted, you're right. There are assholes, and there are people out there that are racist, that are bigoted. Like, that exists.
Right.
I don't think anyone could ever make the argument that doesn't exist, because unfortunately, that's just a human trait.
100%.
We're animals. Yeah. We're tribal, and that's just unfortunately how it is. But we've evolved, and society has, for the most part, generally speaking, changed into an area where it's like, no, in reality, none of that really matters. Yeah. And while there are people that exist, I think it's a way small, like that truly exist and truly think like that. Mm-hmm. I think it's a way smaller number than a lot of people are led to believe.
For sure.
Or they're not even led to believe. They're like scared into believing. Right. Like I really, at the end of the day, I don't think generally speaking, I don't think most people are super bigoted like that or racist. Because like if we were, let's say that the 51% of Americans were as racist as America, or as like the corporate media wants people to be scared enough to believe, we would not function as a society. Right. It just wouldn't happen.
There'd be constant war. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
There would be so much infighting, like genuine infighting. People would be just in the basic sense of like selling goods to each other and creating businesses and creating art. Like we would not be where we are. Like if Steven Spielberg was a racist, those movies would never have been made. You know what I mean? If Rick Rubin was a racist, truly a racist, none of his music would have ever been made. Like 80% of his catalog would just never exist.
I think it'd be hard to be a racist white guy in a hip hop scene.
Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so I truly don't believe that stuff is as bad as people make it out to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd
have to be like willing to wave that flag pretty hard and then go right in the lion's den and then just get wailed on.
Yeah, definitely. How old were you when you're like going to these like different, like obviously very smaller, like community based small group shows? How old were you when you're starting to go to all these?
I was probably like, 16, 15.
Damn,
down there.
Good for you.
Yeah. I started playing live like probably around 12. So I started participating in like fiddle competitions. But yeah, that's when I started like playing gigs with like bands. And like there's these guys called the Creek Heathens out of Northeast Kansas. And they were just like punk grass. Like there's a word they have for it. And I was told it's called trash grass, where they just like cuss and they just like write horrible songs about their ex-wives. And they're just like strumming out G, C, and D chords. But they're just like, I don't know. It's over the top.
That's legit.
And at that time, I was like into bands like Pantera, Metallica, what's another? Flogging Molly, Hank 3. So it was like right up my alley. You know what I mean?
And what year is this?
This is probably 2007, 2008,
okay.
around there. Yeah. And so my uncle had given me like these CDs like when I was like in middle school, and he's like, this is your homework, so that's like, aside from my dad getting me into classic rock and especially vocal harmonies in like the 70s, like in classic rock settings, it hasn't been the same since, man. That's like one of the things, big things I took away from that. But my uncle was like the one that was like the skater, punk rocker, metalhead, and he's the one that introduced me to like these heavier styles of music. And at that point, I was just like super into R&B at the time. Like I didn't even understand metal at all. Like I listened to Slipknot's Iowa album, and I was just like, no, I don't get it.
Hell yeah.
This is noise. I thought it was repulsive. I didn't get it. And now later, going back when I like learned what a riff was and like what groove is, and I listened to that again, I'm like, there's so much good stuff on here. Oh my God, it's everywhere. But at that time, it was just kind of like, that's what I was getting into. And I marinated on that. And then 15, 16, then after I like picked up guitar and I was learning guitar and how to like riff and play every Metallica song I could learn, then that's when I started kind of like gigging with these. They were older. They were much older. They were adults. They were like 40 and 40-year-old dudes. But they were all funny, dude. Like they didn't care. And they didn't care that I was a kid either. They treated me as like an equal, which was cool.
Yeah.
Because like, they would make fun of me and they would make fun of everybody else there,
So I want to touch a little bit on what you just said about vocal harmonies in the 70s. Why, in what way is that changed, and is that a good or a bad thing?
I think that like back in the 70s, they didn't have like autotune. They didn't have like stuff that like you had to be good, basically. You didn't have all the software to help, manipulate the ones and zeros so you sound like, Celine Dion, and I think that, when you're talking about a time where everyone had to be good and everyone was like constantly, like the Eagles, for example, badass harmonies, man, or Boston, badass harmonies. Like I love like, when the hook comes and it just sounds huge, and they would do that live. Kansas, Carry On My Wayward Son, they would sing that intro, and I just think that it's almost like barber shop kind of style singing, in a way. But I don't know. I just think that there's more of an emphasis on that as a culture to like make it the most biggest and beautifulest story you can tell, because and then because we don't have the software, we don't have keyboards, and I mean they did, but like it was all about the voice, and I think it still kind of is, because that's what we hear as human beings. That's what we speak from. That's what we get communicated to is in the voice. And I think that's why like singers are like the biggest superstars, is because they're like the songbirds of our race. So I don't know. I think that's one of the big things that I think I miss about like, and I wasn't alive obviously since then, but that's like whenever I go back and listen to music of that era, I'm just like, God, dude, like jukebox hero, stars in his eyes. That little part right there. Go back and listen to that again, and then just like crank it to 10 and, you know, get on the highway with stars in his eyes. You know what I mean?
No, I get you. And yeah, it's because you brought up Slipknot a bit earlier. I was having this conversation. I think it was with Manny and all them. Yeah, the importance of vocals, because like for me, like Slipknot as a band has gone through so many changes in their lineup, and so many different members have come in and out, and whether it was their choice or not, unfortunately, have come in and out. And, you know, it's still, like, if you go buy a ticket to Slipknot, as long as they're all playing the music correctly, it's still Slipknot.
Yeah.
But if you take out Corey Taylor and you put in somebody else, that's not Slipknot.
I think it's going to be his son. I think his son's doing Vended right now.
They're great live.
Yeah, and it's just like Slipknot, you know.
Well, I think Slipknot lives and dies with Corey Taylor. I think the moment he stops doing Slipknot's just done.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
He'd be on stage saying like, "You'll get another 25 years," and then you see like Mick, and he's just like, "Nope, fuck that." Clock's ticking for me. They're older dudes too. They're like in their 50s.
Yeah, so they have.
And
to
they're
be
playing like songs like "Sick," you know, which is just like that shit's so dirty.
Yeah.
You know, it still is, and it holds up well in a live setting.
Yeah,
to keep that momentum like here the whole show from beginning to end. It's like through the roof.
It's insane. I mean, I saw Rob Zombie live a while back in like 2016 or something like that.
Yeah.
Even at that point, he was like in his late 40s, I think, maybe entering his 50s. I don't know how old he is now. But that dude was still running across the stage, jumping and flipping and whatever. And I mean, and I even saw fucking Ozzy back in like 2018.
Nice.
And now, granted, he walked out there and stood in one place. But the fact that this, at that point, mid 70-year-old man is standing in one spot for over an hour and belting out the music the way he's doing it, it's absolutely. But again, my point is though, is if you take out the vocals, it changes a lot of these bands. And I get a lot of shit for it, but like I don't think Linkin Park is Linkin Park anymore.
No, I don't either.
Because Chester, like I don't discredit how important Mike Shinoda is to that band, both vocally, composition, songwriting. I do not discount that.
Yeah.
He is extremely important.
Right.
But Chester Bennington was Linkin Park.
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue against that, in my opinion, and it's very hard to say that it's still Linkin Park right now. I'm not saying the chick's not talented.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's not talented at all.
Yeah.
But to call that Linkin Park that's a hard argument to make.
For sure. We've ascended to that age where we're having the same Van Halen, Van Hagar conversation. You know?
Yeah.
It was better with David Lee Roth. Or like Bon Scott versus Brian Johnson in AC/DC. Yeah, I feel you. And it's rare that such a talented vocalist like Chester Bennington, he set the bar so high. It's like, you know, how do you follow that? You know, how do you find that animal that can like bring that type of performance? Because he brought like scream singing on the map. Like that dude's voice was like, that's what got me into heavy music was Faint by Linkin Park. You know, and I used to hate the screaming part in the middle. Like I was just like, but like everything else, it made me kept coming back to it where it just like slowly started to warm me up. And now it's like you play that and I'm like ready to run up a mountain or I'm ready to like scrub dishes and try to get it done within 10 minutes.
There's always
take 30, you know?
There's always a gateway band into heavier music, into screaming music. And that for a lot of people is Linkin Park.
Yeah.
For me, it was Asking Alexandria.
Oh, nice.
There's, God, I think
the Stand Up and Scream album is like legendary.
That one was fucking amazing.
It was like the lead of a movement right there.
The first one I listened to, I think it's the one that came after that, the Reckless and Relentless, I think it's called.
Yeah.
That my buddy gave me that my freshman year of high school. Let me borrow it, and he's like, "You should check this out." And I popped it on my laptop, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, dude. I think in high school I was listening to a lot of Killswitch Engage, As I Lay Dying, and All That Remains. It was like the trifecta metalcore.
That's good.
I heard
shit.
6, and my buddy Steven Perez, who's out of Topeka, Kansas. I walked. So okay. Fast forward a little bit. So after, like, you know, I started playing violin and I started getting into high school and I started picking up guitar because Dad got 2 CDs when we went to go fishing. And one time when I was a kid, and it was probably around like 10 years old, I think, around there, maybe 12. But whatchamacallit, he got Best of Van Halen Volume 1 and Metallica's Ride the Lightning. And I heard Fire with Fire for the first time. And I was just like, dude, this shit's pissed, man. This shit's just like, da, 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 da. It's almost just like straight percussive. It's not like singing a melody. It's just punching you in the face. And then I would hear like Creeping Death and then Fade to Black. The intro to Fade to Black is what made me start learning guitar. So I started learning Van Halen riffs and Metallica riffs, and I met my friend Steven. I walked down, and it was at a friend's birthday party. They invited me. I went over there, and my friend, her dad had this Marshall half stack and like a nice Fender Strat. And then I walk downstairs, and I hear the solo being played note for note from Master of Puppets, and it's played fast. And I couldn't play fast like that. I was just still trying to figure out the picking aspect of it. And then there was my friend Steven Perez for the first time, and that's where I met him, and I thus started my journey of going over to his house, and we'd we'd play the harmonized parts and then stay up till like 4 a.m. playing Halo. That was like our ritual. It was awesome, and that was like a big part. So I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna learn an instrument, video games should be integrated within that, because that's part of kind of the ritual to make it even more cool. Yeah, because that's how I learned. So like we would jam, play Halo, and try to beat it on Legendary as co-op, and then we like get tired of it, go back to playing guitar.
Halo 2 on Legendary is an experience. It's like a rite of passage for anyone that grew up with an Xbox.
100%.
It's like, can you beat Halo 2 on Legendary?
Yes, dude. And some of like the ending missions with like the brutes, it's just awful. It makes you want to like throw your freaking fist through the wall. I've been here for an hour trying to beat this one little part of it's not even the whole mission yet.
And I do. It's not my favorite game franchise, but I thoroughly enjoy Halo. But man, back then the controls were not fucking polished. And I don't think a lot of like diehard Halo fans are ready for that conversation yet. But my God, those controls were not very polished. I'll go back and try and play it now. And I'm just like, fuck, can you get out of the way? Can you get out of the way?
I don't think I've ever noticed that. I think I was just so much of a fanboy.
But it's just so much fun to play though.
I was that
so
guy.
ahead of its time.
Interesting. I have to go back and play it though, because I haven't done since.
Because the big Xbox franchise that I got into as a kid was Gears of War.
Nice.
That's what I gravitated to. The fact you had a chainsaw on your gun and you could cut through aliens, that blew, and then like the blood went all over the screen.
America.
It blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Blew my mind. I fucking love those games.
For sure.
So at that point that you start playing guitar, you're playing fiddle already for how many years now?
I'd say probably 4, 5, 6. I'd say 5, 6 years.
So I would imagine that a lot of the skill, especially with like the finger movements, or a lot of that transfers over to. Do you feel like that gave you a leg up on guitar?
Yes, it did. Yeah, but like I said, it was always developing the picking hand. I was always lackluster. So I just decided, like, instead of being a shredder, I'd just be a solid rhythm player. And so that's why I'm grateful in my journey that guitar gave me respect for rhythm. Instead of being a person that only plays leads.
And trying to learn, there was a very long time ago, but I did try to learn guitar at one point. I was just not. Granted, could I have worked harder? Sure, but I just didn't take to it very well.
For sure.
I loved the idea of it more than I actually did the practice of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a big part of that for me was the picking.
Yeah.
I was like, why can't this pick just get off the fucking string?
Right.
And so like for you, as you're
Story
already
of my life, man. I feel you.
You're already musically inclined. You're moving into guitar. Was it for you? Was it a matter like what was it about picking quick that you couldn't get a firm grasp on? Do you think?
I don't know. I think it was just like being young. You don't see you don't have the hindsight to be like, if I put in the work, I'll have it. It's like what can I do now?
Right.
And I practiced the hell out of guitar, and there was one point where I was like putting more effort into guitar than my violin. I was like wanting to be playing rhythm guitar in a metal band, and I wanted to sing, and that's what I was working towards for a long time. And I was just kind of like playing fiddle to play it, because I still was like my first love, but like I watched As Lay Dying's Through the Struggle music video, and that's like one of my favorite music videos, and like that video is like what I wanted to be, and I still want to be, regardless of all the crazy stuff. And I don't want to even get it to it with their singer and whatnot, but like, but that's a whole. We could spend an hour.
I was gonna say like, because I just know that I just know the surface level of it, because I just don't know a lot about any celebrity drama just in general. I just like see headlines.
For sure.
He said something about gay people or like trans people.
No, that's a different band.
Oh, great.
he did something worse. He tried to hire a hitman to kill his wife.
What? For As I Lay Dying.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to make this about that.
Yeah, no, that's
plenty
fair.
of stuff out there about this.
What?
Yeah. So I like grew up like, and I loved that band. I went and saw them. I think when I graduated out of high school, and I got my guitar signed by all of them, including that guy. And I took it to a motorcycle shop, and they clear coated it, and I still have it at my house.
That's badass.
It's like you can't rub it off.
That's a piece of metal history.
Yeah,
like that's regardless of very, I would just say stupid, but very ugly decisions people make.
Right.
That is a piece of metal fucking history.
I'm gonna tell my grandkids, like, sit around, kids. I'm gonna tell you some crazy ass shit about this guy.
I'm gonna look into that later. I had no idea. That's
anyway,
crazy. Yeah.
But like, regardless of all that, back when they were like doing the thing initially at first, that was like one of my main inspirations, and I thought it was cool the fact that at the time it was like Christians making music, and I wasn't Christian myself, and I was almost like I didn't claim it, but it was like you had these people that weren't like shoving it in your face and making dope music, and I'm like, I feel like that's what everyone should do. You know what I mean? It's not so much like the time on stage isn't meant to preach, like say that within the context of your music, and that's how you get a message across to people, multiple types of people. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We started out, Steven and I started doing bands and started doing that whole thing and navigating having a band and being a metalcore band in the Northeast Kansas metal scene, and a lot of learning of like what that is to have a team, how to have people show up, coordinate, getting us to shows and doing the whole thing.
And that's something I was going to actually ask you about, because when you're starting to play in a band like that, I just want to, for like a timeline, say, how old are you at this point?
Let's see here. I am about 16.
You're okay, so very young.
Yeah.
Nowhere close to being an adult. Nowhere close to your brain fully forming.
Yeah.
And now you're in a position where, because again, like in a band, of course, you're forming relationships, but you're trying to figure out how to work together like you said, as a team.
Right.
Trying to work together as a team, trying to work out how, I think is I've never been in a band, but I would imagine is the biggest part is learning how to compromise with each other.
Right.
Learning how to work together to reach the same goal, even at times when you don't know what that goal is quite yet, outside of just making dope music. You don't have a clear vision on what that goal is. So how, looking back on that, how are you navigating that as a 16-year-old, learning about like you're trying to figure out like power dynamics, and, like, how do you speak to each other, and how do you I'd imagine there was a lot of learning experiences.
100%.
And being that young and trying to make a collaborative effort.
Yes, a lot of failures, and a lot of good times too, man. Like it wasn't just like, whether we played good shows or not, we were having fun.
And that's what matters, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's a lot of soft skills you're pulling out of that as a kid.
For sure.
It's a great learning experience.
Yeah. And that's something that, being so young and even as an adult, like navigating an art scene, there are egos, you as well as I know that. And
wait, you're telling me comedians have egos?
Wait
a minute. I don't think so. I have a fucking ego. I know that I do.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think most artists, if they're being honest with them, you inherently have to have an ego.
100%.
You have to, because 100%. What are you saying by getting into an art form? You're saying that you are good enough, or at least you have the potential to be good enough at this specific thing, and so good, in fact, that eventually people should pay money to see you do it.
Right. Yeah.
There's something egotistical about that.
You're owning your shit.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Which isn't a bad thing.
That's okay.
But it's just a statement of fact.
100%.
Right. It's just when it starts going awry.
Right.
When it's like, oh, okay.
Exactly. Or when you use it to like hurt other people or be above other people. That's when it's like ugly. But
that's a better way to put it.
To stand on stage.
There. Be above people. That's a better way to put it.
For sure. You sit here, you're good at what you do. You have a marvelous setup here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it looks awesome.
Thank you very much.
So and for you, if you were to sit there and be like, hey, whatever, I'd get mad. I'm gonna be like, no, you obviously haven't. So like likewise with me, it's just like, no. But yeah, being in a band at that young was like, we made a lot of mistakes, and it was very revealing, like how much dedication it was gonna take. And here I am, like, how much, 18 years later, 17 math. Now it's like I'm still doing the same thing. And I kind of like look back on it. I'm like, man, it's been a minute. Like I've been doing this, chasing this way of life, and it's working out finally, Right. So it's like, I'm grateful for that, and I look back on people that maybe at one point it's just like we were all in this together and now we're not. And it's like, well, this way of life's not for everybody, because it's like, with anything, it takes sacrifice. You got to give yourself 100% to it, like you're trying to survive, And I think that's essential to like the approach to any art, And so, moving out beyond that, after I was like trying to be in a metal band, and I put myself in debt. I got loans to buy trailers and, merchandise, and pay for practice spaces and rely on everybody to pay me. And then people would just be like, I'm not feeling this anymore. We haven't practiced, in like a month, and I'm just not going to pay rent, and I'm like, cool. Well, I still have to,
Right.
So like, then I would be the only guy, and trying to like not let it hurt my credit too with my loan, and yada, yada, yada. I just always found myself constantly being in a circle where it was like, at that point when I was young, like I wanted to do this. And Steven, my best friend who I keep talking about, he was like, we were like Kyle Gass and Jack Black, or, we were like that team, and we could always lean on each other, but yeah, anyway, ended up getting a scholarship, went to college to try to be an accountant, because I thought that's, it sounded dope, and I wanted to make my parents proud, and I was good with numbers. I'm a good math guy. Probably not. I do numbers, but I don't like calculate stuff anymore as much as I practice my violin and do all the other stuff.
Right.
But
it was this all in Kansas when you were going to school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went to KU, and there was like a solid like 4 years of my chapter where I forsaked all of my instruments and was just like trying to pursue a life that wasn't mine. And that is so integral to like me doing it now, because I like legitimately tried to give up on the dream and try to walk away from it. It'd be like, okay, this is a hobby. I'm going to go get a professional job. I'm going to go make $65,000 a year and get insurance and benefits and, do the whole white picket fence American dream thing. And I was like so close to killing myself. And it sucks to say that out loud, but like, that's how I felt. And I just felt like a hollow shell of what I was supposed to be doing. And then to make it worse, this metal band called Oceano? You familiar with?
I know the name.
Like a deathcore OG, kind of like Suicide Silence era.
Yeah. I know them. Yeah, I know them.
Yeah. Dude, they're awesome. Well, we went and saw them live, and I saw this band open for them called Barrier. Barrier is out of Chicago, and there was like this huge new metal hardcore revival happening, and it was probably in around like 2014, 2015, around there. And dude, it was so funny watching these look like they were like 17-year-old kids while climbing up there on that stage, opening for like one of my favorite bands, who's a very well polished act, and they just murdered it. God, those little shits, man, that terrified me. And
those little shits.
Oh my God, they were brilliant. And there I was, 23, and I felt like an old man. I was like, what am I doing? Like, then they look like they weren't dressing the part at all. Like, they look like gym shorts, regular tees, and they look like regular, like little, like they look like kids, high school kids. And they went up there and they just like laid it down, man. Oh, it was awesome.
They might have been high school kids.
Yeah, I think they were.
We got a band like that here in town, fucking Thursday Marks Fall.
Yeah.
Those kids fucking slay on stage. I saw them for the first time in Sunshine, and they destroy it. And they look like toddlers up there.
Yeah. Isn't it cool seeing that?
I'm over here standing, me and my chick were watching them, and I'm like, these guys are great. My back fucking hurts right now, but these guys are great.
They make you forget about it because they're so good, Yeah. It's so inspiring to see that.
Yeah.
That, especially that organized chaos happens so young, but you could just tell it's in their spirits. It's in their blood and guts. It's like, okay, they know who they are to that extent enough to create a sound like that like moves you. And so there I was at the Jackpot in Lawrence, Kansas, probably 30 minutes away from my hometown. And shout out Lawrence, Kansas. That's where like all the art scene is, and Topeka. But I love Lawrence, Kansas. It's like the punk rock, skater, gay, artsy college town, black sheep of the rest of Kansas. It's the shit. I love that place. And lots of bluegrass bands, lots of just like art in general. It was like a big college town with the art and the youth energy that it brings to it. But yeah, I remember just like watching these young dudes destroy the stage and then just being like, God damn it. Like there's parts where I'm like catching myself doing this and I'm like, what is going on? And they shout out Barrier, that first EP that they threw called Dark Days. That's like one of my favorites, but they played a lot of songs from that and it was just brilliant. And that like shell shocked me. I remember going back and I just had this like throw up feeling in my stomach, and it really scared the shit out of me, where it was like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't going to last forever.
Yeah.
Like you're getting older, and these dudes are where you used to be, where you still kind of think you are with how much time that you think you have. And I was like, what am I doing? And then slowly started to like practice my instrument like 4 to 6 hours a day. It was like obsessive. Like I would lift weights and then play my violin and then sing and then play guitar and then lift weights. And I would set a timer for like 25 minutes and I would just do that. And I remember like there was one night where I did it all night. And I won't say I lifted the weights all whole time, but I would get on guitar and I would practice for like a couple hours. I'd get on violin, practice for a couple hours. And I remember like hearing birds outside and I'm like, I got work and school today. And I just practiced the whole night. And I was barely passing my courses. My professors knew I was like not into it anymore. Yeah. And not only that, everyone like had like business professional. They look good, you know, like cardigans, Ray-Ban glasses, haircuts. And then here I come in, fucking rock and roll. Stretched ears, piercings in my face, long hair, wearing like Suicide Silence merch.
The hierarchy of appearance is cardigans, Ray-Bans, a haircut.
Yeah. I mean, how many other accountants do you see like running around wearing Whitechapel merch? You know what I mean?
Hilarious.
Not saying they don't exist, but you don't see it.
It's not it's not the stereotype.
Right. You know, like you hire a CPA and he comes rolling up in like a freaking like 69 Chevelle, you know what I mean? Tattoos, and you just hear ooh on the stereo. I hope that would be me at one point, you know. And that's going to be me, but without the accounting part. I'll just be a fiddle player.
Well, I mean, and I feel like a lot of people kind of need that because again, you were young at the time. I mean, you're still young, but like at the time, you're very young.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody needs, especially after the age of 18, you need a bit of give a fuck in you, and you need a bit of stress, and you need a bit of, hey, get your shit together, or things might go wrong for you. Yeah. It can't just be lackadaisical, we'll get to it later mentality. Mm-hmm. You should enjoy the time of your life, but like you should really have some sort of like, hey, what are you doing right now?
Right.
And when you start not lose that, 'cause it's not like you stopped living altogether. You just switched priorities, something that you thought would be more beneficial to you.
Right.
So it's not like you became complacent or you became like just lazy in life. You just switch disciplines.
Right.
But
yeah,
it sounds like there was obviously that bug in the back of your head, that voice was like, hey, motherfucker, this is not you. Yep. And you are going to hate this. This is going to hate you. This is not a good relationship that you're having with life right now.
For sure.
And to see something like that, to kind of put a fire under your ass, like, hey, all right, that it's because I mean that was for me with comedy, like getting into it, like seeing. Because I'd always been a huge fan of stand-up and a huge, like, I mean, still do, but, like, a huge respect for comedians. It's like, it's just you and a microphone, and you got to figure that shit out.
Right.
That is bananas to me.
Dude.
But I just thought that was something that only happened in, like, L.A. or New York or Chicago or, you know, these big comedy hubs. I didn't think that Albuquerque, New Mexico had open mics.
Right.
I didn't think that was the thing.
Yeah.
But I started doing this, and I see open mics happen. I went to open mics like a dumbass and just watched, and just saw horrible comedy.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, that's possible. Like, you can just do it."
Yeah.
And then watching other comedians that I've become friends with, and obviously bigger ones come through town and do it at such a high level, like you saw that. I was like, "Oh, okay, that can be me."
Yeah.
I just got to work at it.
Exactly.
That's possible. There's people that I know are now doing this. That is, this whole shtick is possible.
For sure.
And you need that. You need you need to see it like visualized. I'm a big believer in that. You need to see the shit visualized.
Right. I remember, not to get off track, but like I played to kind of get my bearings around here. I played like an open mic one night, and I didn't do a comedy bit. I just played like 2 songs.
Yeah.
And like it was like down on Central, I think in Eclipse. Kind of like in the room next to it that's more chill. It's not upstairs where all the crazy clubbing goes on. But yeah, someone invited me. They were like, hey, man, like, yeah, come in and just play like 2 songs. We got time. So I showed up, you know, watched some of the comedians do their things. And I remember I went up there and I played like my rendition of Seven Nation Army. And it was just like, that was like everyone knows that riff. And it's like cliche now. I don't like to play it because I like rather just play my own originals. But like at the time, like before I had like my originals written, like I would just like jam over some like really popular tracks, and I just had my wah pedal out and I lit my hair out and I just went in there like fucking Dimebag Daryl, and I was just like moving around and I got the crowd all hyped and stuff. And then like finished the song, got off stage. The next comedian gets up on stage. He's like, I'm pissed. And how do I follow this asshole with a crazy violin and a wah pedal? And I talked to him afterwards, and that's something that I love about comedians. I feel like your type of breed is like so real, it's brutal, you know. And so I talked to him, and he was like, "Good job. Kind of hate you. Good job, though." And I was like, I know what you're saying, and I laughed, but he wasn't laughing. He was like,
still to get that serious about an open mic is a little. Yeah, that's a little stupid.
Well, I mean, that's
a little silly.
But like the fact that he was annoyed, it was like already a big enough compliment in itself.
Yeah,
I was like, that was sincere. Yeah, that's funny. You liked it. You hated it because you liked it.
That's funny. So you see that happen. I'd imagine you end up did you graduate college or did you
I ended up graduating with a lesser degree.
Hey, you still fucking graduated
I got my bachelor's in business, and then
a lesser degree. Hey, that's a bachelor's in something.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And then I had like one more class to go, and I have my bachelor's in finance. So I'm like one class away from it. But at that point in time, like, 'cause when I graduated, I like rocketed out of college. I was like, okay, I had this coming to, lack of a better word, like Jesus moment, and I'm not a Jesus guy, but you know, I saw an angel. I don't know. I saw like, I think it was honestly like my muse. It was like the purest version of myself. And this is like after a night of partying and like trying to find love in a crazy party scene, which we all try to do. And it's like, we think we're going to find the love of our lives in that crazy, like everyone's sleeping with each other. And, you know, there's all this drama and we're like thinking that we're going to find our happily ever after in that. And some people do. And that's cool if it still works. I'm happy for those people. But for me, it wasn't working. And I was like, almost like playing this game of like, before I graduated, like, it's hopeless. I'm done. Like, my time is over. And I legitimately convinced myself this, like, it's over. Now I'm just going to play the game of everyone's like slowly killing each other. But as long as we're going down with the ship, like as a team, we're not lonely when we do it. And so much of youth, I feel like today plays this game and even into our adulthood. So it's like, I don't know. I had a dream and I was basically shown the future and I looked like an old man and all I had to show for my name was like an empty beer mug glass. And I saw my friends and it terrified me because they were old and they were just like, we were just in the bar, not with nothing to show for it at the end of the day, you know? And then it was like, zoomed back to like this 8-year-old version of me that I was having this conversation with. And they were just like, you can do it. Like, this is actually in your fate to do something, but I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you have to start right now. And that was like the only time in my life where like I had went to sleep and then woke up and then it was like my value system had completely changed and what I prioritized completely changed overnight. And then it was like, I'm practicing 4 hours a day. I'm practicing till my back and my arms and my shoulders are going to pop off because something's telling me to be freaking ready, whatever it's going to be, you know? So I graduated college, and at that point, I had gotten into this band. My friend Cody Zirkle, who goes to a lot of local festivals around there, and he was just like, you know, one of my stoner friends to come over and, you know, hang out, burn one, and then listen to music. And he said, you know Sean James and the Shapeshifters? And I was like, no. He was like, you're a metalhead violin player, and you've never heard of this band. I was like, no, I have not. So we listened, and just to give you context, Sean is a blues singer from the south side of Chicago, grew up working in his family's restaurant, was a hard worker, earned everything he has, but he was like a metal singer at one point, like in a metalcore band, like in like the generation prior to like All That Remains and Killswitch Engage and Asking Alexandria. It was more of like in the Zayo, Life Once Lost. Like, you know, when the first August Burns Red album dropped, that was like his era.
Like early 2000s, right. Almost like late 90s.
So, and anyway, it showed him in this song called Hunger. And one by one, like his whole band of ruffians, like the storyline of the music video is that they're all trying to steal moonshine from this hillbilly dude. And the hillbilly dude wakes up, and then one by one, he slaughters them all individually. And the singer, Sean, gets like slaughtered at the end, you know, being the main dude. And it was like just like this upbeat, almost folky kind of like singer-songwriting. But like the way he sings is almost like there's heat behind it where it's almost like he's screaming. But he's just like like lots of heat on this Southern style vocal. So I went and saw him play. I didn't tell him I was like, you know, at that point I would like played with mariachi bands, rock bands, hip hop artists, reggae bands, you name it. Like whoever gave me the opportunity to step on stage and play with them, I would do it. And it was just like I was constantly just throwing myself into the fray because somebody was telling me like, you know, don't just be one-sided. Know this instrument from the whole thing.
And that's something I was going to stop you real quick. That's something I was going to ask you. So from your experience as a musician, obviously you have to practice a ton on your own. You have to practice and practice and practice. But then what are you learning while you're playing on stage and you're actually playing shows? What are you learning from that you don't learn from practicing your instrument in your private time?
Oh, okay. How to amplify yourself. Yeah. It's a different energy. Like I know it's like almost like going Super Saiyan. And I'm not even trying to be sounding cliche, but it's like, you know, when I jump up on stage and it's a gear that I flip on the inside where it's like I'm exuding, like I don't know how to really explain it, where you're just like, I even see it in my heart rate. I jump up to like 130, 140 BPM, which is like, you know, I'm jogging at like a 10-minute pace, you know, and it's like, you know, my knees are bent, you know, if you play, you know, with your legs straight and you're in a metal band, then you shouldn't do that ever. You should be like this. You know, that's a Hetfield stance, you know, one leg out, one leg back, you know, and you sit in it like a chair, you know, and then right there, that's kind of your home base. That's what Metallica taught me. And you can headbang and you can bob with the music, but as long as you have your knees bent, you look like the dude. But something that I've always constantly found, like, you know, amplifying yourself and also producing a state of being where you're like, you know, you're just letting things flow through you. You know, you're not, you know, too critical on yourself if people are watching, or you're not too critical of yourself, like you're embarrassing yourself because you're bearing yourself out to the public. And I used to busk a lot, like play on the street and cut my teeth that way too whenever I didn't have gigs. So I go out onto like Mass Street in Lawrence and set up my violin case and then just like busk for 2 to 3 hours and make like $60-$70, you know, and then like just go out there and I'd be like the fiddle player with a wah pedal, you know, and I'd be playing to like mostly trap beats, you know, but like that was like what I did back in those days.
What gave you confidence to start doing stuff like that? That's crazy. Like, I see you do that here in Albuquerque, and I'm like, you're a brave soul. You are a brave soul. Like, what gave you the confidence to do? Was that just the need to perform? Like the need to get out there and do the thing you've been practicing?
100%. Dude, okay, so, I mean, we're kind of jumping forward, but like when I first got into town, everyone told me not to busk here in ABQ. They were like, and everything I've heard about ABQ was just like violence and this is like scary place to be outside looking in. And now I'm like going on my 6th year living here and I can't get away. This is home for me. I love it here. But people are like, I'm like, I'd ask people, locals, like, can I bust downtown? And they'd be like, don't do that. You're going to get shot. You're going to get stabbed. You're going to get robbed. You know, there's going to be people that'll come by on their bikes and grab your filing case full of money, and then they'll just be out.
Well, that is a real possibility.
Now it's getting crazy out there nowadays, but pre-COVID, like, I would be out there, and I'm not even kidding. There'd be certain summers where I didn't have anything going on, and, like, legitimately that's how I was paying my bills, is going out there and earning money on the street, you know? And people can call it begging or whatever, and some people have, but I'm like, I'm not begging, like, I'm out there like sharing music with people, and yeah, I am trying to make ends meet, but you know, at the same time, like I still consider it a trade.
Hey, do your thing. If it works, it works. Who gives a shit?
I'm spreading positivity and energy, good energy, doing what I'm doing. Then it's just like I don't see it as that, you know. But like, it's whatever. Those are other people's perceptions, and I don't give a shit, you know. But anyway, yeah, I'd be out there till like 2 a.m. playing, and I remember there was one time where I was like playing my fiddle music, and like this dude comes running around the corner, and he's like, help, 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 they're after me. And then I see like these 2 cops coming right behind him. They're just hot on his ass, and he's running right towards me, and he's making eye contact with me like, help, help, oh my God. And then this other cop that was on the left-hand side, I didn't even see, he just came out of the shadows like a ninja, and then he just linebacker tackled this dude. Like, it was like, where the hell did you even come from? And like this dude is like right, like I'm right here, that dude's right there, like 3 feet in front of me, and I have like 5-6 people watching me play. And I'm still playing my fiddle music, like why this dude's just
Yeah,
straight
you
up
give
getting
this dude a soundtrack
arrested.
right now is what
yeah,
you do.
exactly. I thought about like trying to play the Bad Boys theme song, but I was like, I don't need to be I'm pissing off the cops. You know what I mean? Like they're letting me do my thing, and sometimes cities like are like weird about sound noise ordinances and stuff. You know, and my speakers at the time were pushing up bass where I was turning it up loud, and they didn't care. So it was like, why kick the beehive? You know?
They've got bigger fish to fry, unfortunately.
Yeah, like this poor dude in front of me. Anyway, he's like getting cupped up in front of me, and he's like, "Help! I've been framed! Help! I've been framed!" And I'm like, "Dude, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm just out here playing fiddle." And he gets like carted off, and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's real out here! Like, I'm out here like serenading this chaos."
Dude, fucking, there's this video that came out maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago at this point. Time fucking flies.
Yeah.
Maybe like a year and a half ago, where it's this dude, and I think is like this dude and his chick. I think it's like two other guys. They're walking up. This dude just randomly pulls out his gun, shoots, and starts running away. Misses the guy. Thankfully, misses both of them. These two guys start running, and as this guy's running away, he pulls out his gun and then starts firing like this, looking this way, but like firing in that way. And some dude who was sitting like, I forget what nightclub it is downtown, but I guess they had like a balcony. Some dude who's just on the balcony having a cigarette, caught one in the leg.
Jesus.
Had to go to the hospital. It's like,
terrible,
and then they all did that in front of cop cars.
Jeez.
So
This happened here?
Yeah, dude.
How long ago?
Like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah, give or take.
Jeez. You know what's even more amazing to me is like, I mean, that's not amazing, but like amazing in the fact that it's just so crazy. Like people are that irresponsible with guns.
Oh yeah.
You know, but how like I've been outside behind the launch pad and we were like loading out for a show, and like a block away, I'm not even kidding, a block away, I see somebody pull out a pistol, and I'm close enough to them where I could see like the air moving around the bullet when after the muzzle flash, you know what I mean? And I saw them pop off 4 rounds. There's like 4 bands that are out in that little parking lot. Everyone ducks down, waits a little bit, gets up, looks around. So anyway, like I was saying, good set. Yeah, man. Yeah, I felt like the other part in the bridge could have been a little bit tighter. And I'm like, that dude is still over there.
Yeah.
Like he still has his gun. And everyone's super chill, you know.
Well, it's unfortunately it's just the culture of
like I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm going now.
Like you would say, it's the culture of Albuquerque, but really it's the culture of New Mexico. Like I spent 7 years down in Roswell, New Mexico.
Yeah.
I went to military school down there for 6 years, and then after I graduated, I came back and worked at the school for a year in the administrative office.
Yeah.
And I remember, attending the school, they would tell us as cadets, like, hey, listen, man, like, you guys can do whatever you want, and not whatever we want, but, like, you can go to whatever place you want in the north side of the city. Just don't go south. Mm-hmm. If you go south of, like...
In Roswell or ABQ?
In Roswell.
Oh, okay.
And I forget what... Because have you ever been to Roswell at all?
No, not enough to know it.
There's nothing there, but it's, God bless them, there's nothing there.
Aliens, right?
Yeah, both kinds. So there's
oh my God.
There's like, so where the school's at, there's a couple of decent restaurants, and I forget what street it is. It's like right after the Papa John's. And like, hey, just don't go south of this street because you're gonna get fucked up. Like they would tell us that.
Yeah.
Like whether you're in your cadet uniform or not, like this, you shouldn't be fucking walking down there, especially at night.
Right.
It's just violent. Like obviously Roswell's a way smaller city than Los Angeles, but like per capita, Roswell had more murders than L.A. did, L.A. County in 2019, I think 2018.
Yeah.
Well, but all of that to say, unfortunately, it's a part of the culture of New Mexico. It's unfortunately a culture of violence, and it's interesting looking at the dichotomy of it because on one side of the coin you have a culture of like rich music, food, people, history. Like this is the Wild West. Like I know people think a lot about Texas being the Wild West, but if you look at all like the Louis Lamar books, all the like some of the best Western films, a lot of them either take place in or some of it has aspects in New Mexico. Yeah, because this was one of the hardest places to settle. Yeah, this was one of the roughest parts of the country. Like this was the Billy the Kid. Like this is the Wild fucking West. Yeah. So there's a rich history here, but it's like I'm not big on like thinking about I'm just not convinced about like I just don't know a lot about like generational trauma or like stuff like that. But I really think that if there is ever an argument for it, it's in New Mexico. Because this was the wild fucking West.
Yeah.
And flash forward was just to go to a round number and say 100 years later, 200 years later, this is still an extremely violent part. Like we rounded out 2023 with the highest homicide rate in the country.
Do you think like people in the desert are more aggressive?
No, I really do think it's a culture issue, and I'm not too sure why.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to pin it down. Like and I've grown up here and I've lived here my whole life.
Right.
And I mean, just like everything else about society, COVID really accelerated things.
Right.
Just pretty much any facet, positive or negative about society, COVID just amplified that, right?
Yeah.
It pushed it way further in progress, right?
Sure.
Like I say, if there wasn't COVID, it'd be like a 10% progress. With COVID, like 50. And, like way accelerated things. And because I mean, there was always worries about people pulling out guns and people shooting when I was a kid, but like over the last, like really since COVID, it's just been like people don't even try to fight anymore.
Even this last year.
There's just
gun violence is everywhere.
If there is a disagreement, if there's a whatever, they're either going to shoot on the spot or they're going to go to their car, grab their gun and shoot.
Right. And it's also terrifying that there people are like willing to make that decision.
Well, because they're not
like, today I'm going to prison.
Well, you're giving them too much credit. They're not having that train of thought. They're not having that thought process.
They're just reacting probably purely in that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're just reacting like, okay, well, you did this. Now now I'm going to shoot you.
For sure.
They're not thinking of like, there is no forward perception. There is no second, third, fourth effect of what they're
I guess that's what I was trying. I guess that's what I meant. You know what I mean? Where it's just like the people do come to that conclusion, even if it may be briefly. And it's like, fuck, man, like you never know what's waiting out there, you know? So there I am, like on the street performing for this chaotic mob, you know. And I remember there was like a couple times where I had like I'm not even trying to sound like blow it up out of proportion, but there was one night especially, and this is like people kind of started to know who I was, and I started to make friends through the scene doing this. But I brought a speaker out, like a PA speaker that had a 15-inch sub, had 1,300 watt peak on it. Brought a car battery, got jumper cables, attached it up there, got a power inverter, fucking like with my jumper cables, clicked them together and they sparked. I looked like a mad scientist out there. Put it on the power inverters and I plugged my PA speaker into the power inverter.
That's great.
And I had enough bass to like thump the sidewalk. It was awesome. And so there I went there with like my wah pedal and my violin, just like whittly wah, whittly wah. And whatchamacallit, there was like must have been like 50 to 60 people that like after the bars had closed, and this is like 2 a.m, everyone is, you know, coming out and everyone starts dancing in front of me.
And what part of Central was this?
This is probably right in front of the Chemo Theater.
Okay.
Yeah, right
Sick.
there. Yeah, right in front of Eclipse and where Last Call used to be.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, dude. And so like it was like the trifecta, like, and everyone was so messed up
Drunk
and like
as fuck. They got their tacos.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh snap. Okay, all right. This is like the after party. So I was hosting the after party on Central, and at first it was like, and it was awesome. At first it was like, man, this is really freaking cool. And then I started seeing like police stack up on both sides, and I started like kind of like coming to, and I'm like, oh man, something could pop off at any point. Like if anything is gonna happen, it happened right now.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, me and my buddies have this conversation. I'm sorry to cut you off. Like me and my buddies have this conversation all the time. Like in the rare times that we find ourselves on Central at night, rare times.
Yeah.
We aren't there past 11:30.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason I'm ever on Central after 11:30 is because I had a late show.
Yeah.
And even then, like, my show's usually out by 11, so I'm gone.
Yeah.
It's just, if I've got a late comedy show downtown or something like that, thankfully, the one place that we do hold shows now is at, do you know where Safe House is at?
No.
It's off of Central and 7th. So it's
Okay.
like, it's a bit removed from everything.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, I don't mind hanging out there for a bit, having a drink with the other comics, meeting some audience members, hanging out, whatever. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't actually, now that I think about it, I don't think no, it's not on Central. It's on 7th and Gold. Just kidding.
Yeah.
So it's right behind all of that. It's like, all right, we're cool. I don't mind. The owners are great. They love us. It's a safe place. Whatever.
For sure.
Lord fucking forbid you won't find me on Central at 12.
Yeah.
You just fucking won't. I'm not in the mood.
For sure.
At bare minimum, it's happened to me in the past.
You see some crazy stuff go down.
You see crazy shit. Dude, okay.
Like all the time.
Okay, so me and my buddy AJ, we had gotten done at Safe House. We had gotten done at a different comedy show at Tractor. And we had gotten a drink at Anodyne because some out-of-state comedians were in town. We all got a drink, whatever.
Yeah.
We're leaving. I'm walking with him and his girl back to their car. We see this homeless dude in his underwear. Yeah. You know how like there's like launch pad here, and then there's the parking lot, and then in like the back of the parking lot there's like that little building. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Homeless dude made his way on top of that building, and he's just screaming at this guy. We just walked into like the middle of it, right? Yeah. He's just screaming like "fuck you, man! You just fucking losing on this guy." Yeah. Dude down there's a little bit drunk. He's like, "Hey, no, fuck you!" And then like yelling at each other. What's your name? So then, yeah. Tony. So then. Fuck you, Tony. So the homeless dude picks up this rock from on top of the building, chucks it at the dude. Oh no! Misses him. Dude picks up a broken piece of cement, lobs it at the homeless dude, knocks him in the head. He goes down. Oh jeez. And we're like, what the fuck? Cops roll up. Yeah. They arrest the guy who threw the thing. They make their way up to the top. The homeless dude's fine. Yeah. But I guess the cop, like, didn't fasten the fucking handcuffs or something. Because, oh, boy, he's, like, sitting on the street like this. Yeah. He's sitting there. He noticed the cops are dealing with him. Like, there's one up top and there's one, like, on the bottom just talking to him and talking to his partner. And we watch him. He goes... The hands get free, and he just takes the fuck off. Oh, damn. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. My point is like, yeah, we're not...
It's Gotham City out here.
Yeah, fucking Batman's been long gone, son. But anyway, so you're playing for this crowd in front of the chemo. You got like 60 people, cops are rolling up.
Right. And it's just like, I just got out of there. You know, I was like, nothing happened. But like, I could just tell, like, okay, you know... The ability to bring out people's cool, you know, and I'm glad that they were vibing, you know, and they were like probably tuned up, so they were like a little bit more accepting to the idea of moving when they heard the bass, you know.
Well, I mean, but the instrument that you play is already unique and cool because there's not a whole lot of fiddle running around these days. Right. Yeah. But on top of that, you're adding a heavy metal aspect to it. Right. And it's like, and this is something I wanted to ask you in the beginning. You've kind of touched on it here and there. You explained why you got into the fiddle. You explained how much you fell in love with it. At what point, and you started playing guitar, obviously, but what point do you marry the two?
So that happened kind of like right around like college and end of college era.
Okay. And after you have the epiphany moment.
Yeah, after I have the epiphany moment, and I started throwing it together, and I don't know, I brought up Sean James because I ended up trying out for his band, and I was like a fan of his music, and I got to be in the band. It was like I was like Mark Wahlberg and Rockstar, but like Sean was at the time wasn't like, you know, still known on the underground circuit very well. But when it came to the mainstream audience, he wasn't known as well as he is now. And he got some success by writing the song Through the Valley, which was featured in the second Last of Us reveal trailer, and it's the song that Ellie is singing in that reveal trailer of The Last of Us 2. So overnight, that dude's success just blew up. You know what I'm saying? And
congratulations, bud.
Yeah, now since then, you know, it's opened up all these crazy markets to him in like Europe and Brazil and Canada and you know.
So are you talking? Because I'm a dork. If you couldn't tell, I'm a dork. So okay, is that for the Last of Us video game or the show?
It's for the video game.
The Last of Us Part 2, the video game.
Yes.
Did you play the video game?
Yeah.
How did you feel about it?
Okay, so I haven't finished the storyline. Okay. I finished probably about 85% of the first game. The second game, to be honest, like I played a little bit, but
wait, you didn't finish the first game?
No,
dude.
It was like one of those things where I was gaming with Steven and we were playing it and we never finished it.
Do you know how it ends?
So I just watched the playthrough of it on YouTube.
Oh, son of a bitch!
Yeah, that's how I finished it.
Oh no!
Yeah. I had to know because it was becoming so popular, and I'm like, and then I met Sean, and it's like, well, fuck, man, now I gotta like figure it out. Like, I can't be a part of this dude's legacy when this is such a big part.
How did you feel about Joel getting whacked in the second game?
Oh, dude, that sucked. I was so pissed. I don't know. I'm stoked about like how it's going to be reinterpreted in the live series, and there's potential hints that Sean's music might be involved in the second season.
That's awesome.
And so that's why I'm pumped to see once that comes through. You know, above all else, like the lore of it's awesome, but like I'm curious, like for him and me being in his band, like where's that gonna take the whole act?
That's
to
so
the next
cool.
level.
What the
So,
fuck?
yeah.
Do you know how that whole deal went down for him? Like how he got approached for that? Or
I think that the story is that Neil Druckmann was looking for a version of "God Is Gonna Cut You Down," or some Johnny Cash song, and Sean had a cover of it that he recorded. Somehow he typed in that, and it was like one of the related links. And because Sean had a video up, he found that video, and then he started going through all of his original music, found Through the Valley, and was just like, shot him an email, I guess. This is how I know it, but like...
Could you imagine waking up to an email from a major video game production studio?
Dude,
or director, rather?
I think the way it was is they didn't tell him anything. They just said, hey, turn on the TV at this date on this channel. You're going to want to watch it. And he was like, okay. He turned it on, watched it, learned about it the same time everyone else did. All these nerds that were like falling in love with the first game. And then there he saw like the main character playing his song.
That's so cool.
It's like Battlefield, where that one guy where they animated that guy jumping out of the jet, pulling out the rocket launcher, shooting the other jet, and then jumping back in the jet and flying away. And then Battlefield actually animated that sequence into like their next game.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, how must that feel, to like have your song that you recorded in your bedroom with a shitty microphone, you can hear trains in the background, and then all of a sudden it's just like a worldwide success.
You know what? I don't agree with every decision Neil Druckmann has made with that franchise, but I've always agreed with the fact that he sticks to his decisions.
Yeah.
And he like sticks to his guns. And you can always tell there's a level of authenticity to it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, this is what this dude's into. He means what he's doing. So that doesn't surprise me at all. It's the kind of musical choice he made. That's so fucking cool, man. Good for him.
So we got to go out to LA, and when he was recording his Dark in the Light album, I got to go out there and record, and I'm on the song called The Curse of the Fold. And we just layered up a bunch of violins, worked with this crazy producer that's like has a resume of like big artists. Like, he was talking about how Shinedown approached him, this guy named Jimmy Messer, to like do an album, and he's done a bunch. I think he wrote the song "Sail" by AWOL Nation. Like that's like
one of the biggest songs of all time.
Sail. Everyone knows that song.
Yeah, everybody knows that song.
And that's like I think he got like pretty much the writing credits for that.
Oh shit.
So anyway, I'm going into the studio, and like he was like, I remember I spent 3 days figuring out the solo that I played on this song. And I was just like feeling the pressure, and it just wasn't working, and I was just like messing it up. I remember telling him, I was like, man, like I'm not vibing it today. Can we do this tomorrow? And he was just like, no, we're doing it now. Do what you need to do. Take like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Go out there, take some fresh air, whatever you need to do. Come back in, and we're finishing this shit, period. Like we're done after today. And I was like, shit. Damn, like he was so cold about it. Really nice guy.
Yeah.
But like,
he put the business hat on, and he was like, listen, dude, get it
flame
together.
Under my ass. Yeah. And so I went out there, did whatever I needed to do, went back in there, and we ended up killing it. It was awesome. I was like one of those moments where I had to really look at myself and be like, what are you going to do, motherfucker? Like, you come all this way from Kansas, and you're in LA now.
You
and
can't choke.
This fancy pants producer who has all these credentials and all these crazy people that have walked in this same studio. And
told you to get your shit together.
Yeah, and it was cool. And I needed it. And then I killed it, and it was all good. And then we got invited to go hang out at Neil Druckmann's the Naughty Dog Studios. So we got to actually walk through, and I got to see them like designing characters. Like everyone had their little cubicles, and like I would see like 3D renders of like people like working on characters from The Last of Us 2. And it was really cool. And then, so like you talk about Naughty Dog, so that's like Uncharted, freaking Crash Bandicoot, Jack and Daxter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all these nostalgic games, and it was awesome. And then they took us into this movie theater room where they would it was like a miniature movie theater where they would play sequences from the game. And then they would like make notes and say, okay, this is what we need to improve on, but this is how we went. So like they showed us like parts of the cinematics from the game before it even came out. And at that time, like even just to like in the beginning, like there's like people dancing, you know, like at the little party they're having.
Right, yeah.
They were all just other Ellies because they hadn't finished the renders or the designs of the other characters. So it was funny seeing Ellie deliver the dialogue, and then there's like 15 different Ellies in the background, like, you know, filling in the space for what, you know, they're going to put the different skins on the little movements that they're doing.
Right.
But yeah, it was really cool. Then we had lunch with him, and he was a very soft-spoken guy, super chill, you know. A lot of, I don't know, when we were down there, we met with like a bunch of like big wigs. Like we went down to Warner Brothers. We talked to like the head honcho in charge. We were down in like, I think Sony or something crazy. Went to like the top and performed for like these music executives and stuff, and shook hands with like the people that are like running media in LA, which is insane. And one thing that was always consistent about all the CEOs is they were all so chill. They were all so like playful and like ready to talk shit.
And if there isn't a message that needs to get pushed now more than ever, that is a message that CEOs are chill.
Some of them. These ones were. I don't know about all of them, but yeah. These ones, I don't know. That's something that I expected because like LA kind of comes off a little superficial to me sometimes.
Well, it is
everyone's
superficial.
trying to be cool, and everyone's so about their image, and they want to be the guy, and like everyone there, like, you know, I'm
glad you had a good experience.
Nice. Yeah, it was nice. You know, I wish that Spotify and iTunes and everyone would pay more per stream because I think like it's getting smaller and smaller every year. But like those guys were really cool, and it was cool. You know, got to travel around with Sean and do the whole thing. You know, and I still tour with him to this day. We just finished a tour in South America.
Oh,
where
cool.
We played in Sao Paulo for like I think 1,100 people.
Wow.
And we played in Rio. We played in Bogota in Colombia, played like a bunch of places in Mexico and Chile. So we like explored South America, and it was awesome. Down there we're like famous, which is weird because it's just like they know who we are. Like I go down there and there's people like tattooed his lyrics and also have like my little skeleton fiddler tattooed on their arms.
That's crazy.
And it's just like, dude, damn. Like,
what kind of feeling is that for the first time you see somebody with your stuff tatted on them?
It's very flattering. I won't say that it's not, but it's also just kind of weird where it's just kind of like, how many of you want to like throw me in a potato sack and like chain me to your water heater? You know what I mean? Because some people see you in such a huge light. And like, cause like that's how I viewed my heroes as in high school, where I'm like, you are fucking gods. You are like ascended beyond human beings. Like you wipe your butt in a different way, and truth is, we all wipe our butt the same way. But like some people like
back to front.
They're like back to front. You do back to front?
No, I'm not a psycho.
Okay, I'll say, wow. Even thinking about that, that's just that's awful. But I don't know. That was like my first experience with like meeting fandom, where it was like, you know, I was getting pinned up against a wall and people were like, "Oh my God, like you're that dude, sign this or take a picture." And it was cool, like, you know, coming from so far where it was like I didn't know if things were even going to happen in here, you know, to go to a country where English is not the main language spoken and they know who you are. It's very like very good feel like Freddie Mercury said it in the Queen movie, you know, and they were saying like they went to Queen and they played Love of My Life, and the whole freaking crowd in Brazil, in Rio, sang it. I think it was like the first Rock in Rio they did. And you talk about oceans of people singing like English lyrics, and where they all speak mostly Portuguese. Right. That's crazy, man. You know, and everyone says that about Brazil until I went there and saw it myself, and it was just like, holy crap, like.
It's interesting seeing how Western media can transcend into different cultures and different countries.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that legendary video of fucking Metallica in the 90s playing that Russian outdoor gig where there's like 100,000 people or some shit.
It's with Pantera.
Insane.
I think that's probably Pantera's greatest gig. Metallica's, I think their greatest gig was the Live Shit, Binge, and Purge, 1989. It's a live DVD they did, and it's like, right before the Black Album came out.
What's it called?
Live Shit, Binge, and Purge. Seattle, 89. Everyone Google that up. And I used to watch Creeping Death out of that set. And
yeah, I've seen this. Yes, I've seen this.
Dude, that's like James Hetfield's at like his vocal epitome, man. And Lars's drumming was like really, really good then.
Nah. He wasn't yelling about LimeWire yet.
Not yet. Yeah, that was before all that.
Man, they are young, dude.
Dude, and they sound so pissed off. Like they open with Blackened, and it's just, oh, it's so good, man. It's so good. Like that snare when he comes in, it just sounds like a machine gun. But yeah, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, I used to listen to Creeping Death before going into orchestra rehearsals or like recitals in high school. So like I would be like in the back, like with my headphones on, and be like, die, 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 motherfucker, die. And then I'd like walk out there with my like junior class, and we'd be like, but inside my head, I'm like, oh, let's go, let's start a mosh pit or something. You know,
something I'm curious about. But when you were playing in front of 11,000, how many people?
1,100.
1,100
Yeah.
people. Yeah, I don't want to misspeak there, but 1,100 people is not a small crowd.
No.
All right, that's a lot of people. Is it true? Because I've heard this a lot from like comics, right? Where like, is it true that because obviously you've played like a lot smaller gigs and some gigs that are in between, couple hundred.
Yeah.
At what point? Obviously, it's not a number, but does it get to a point where there's like just so many people that it starts becoming like not even differential?
Yeah. 100%.
Where it's just like, holy fuck, there's so many of you. You're just a sea. You might as well be one amalgamed body.
Yes. Yeah. I think that like the 250 shows are sometimes more pressure on those because they're right there in your face, you know. And I prefer those shows more.
Yeah.
To be honest, because it's like if the people are right there, or the energy transfer is magical. You know, it's so raw and real. But like, you know, with a bigger place like that, it was awesome, dude. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, it's not taking away from it at all, of course.
But yeah, it does take away some of like the you're not as close to them, you know.
Yeah,
like
I get what you mean.
Yeah, it's not as intimate, I guess.
Right, but that's still crazy. 1,100
Yeah.
fucking people.
Yeah, I got a feijoada tattoo on my leg, and feijoada is like their pork bean stew.
Okay.
You know, like what like they gave like the cheap cuts of pork to like the poor people. And they basically made a stew out of it, and it's like this cultural thing. It's basically like a ham hock with black beans that you cook all day. So like the ham hock's just like falling off the bone. And it's like the closest thing I can like compare it to. But like I got like a I love feijoada tattoo. And my mom makes something similar at home, so that's why I wanted to get it, because that was the first meal I ate there, and they're like, hey, it's feijoada day, you might like it if you like meat. And I was like, okay, yeah, ate it. And I was like, dude, this is just like my mom's house. What the fuck? And then so the next time we came through, my friend knew, she tattooed my leg. And then it was funny, like we went and played Belo Horizonte in Brazil. And I think we played for like 600 people. And I walked out, and when Sean introduced me, everyone started chanting, feijoada, feijoada. It was, and like they hadn't seen it. They just only seen it through social media. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
But like they all had figured it out. You know, like Sean had reposted it on his story. You know, so like the whole fandom, they're watching the stuff. You know what I mean? So they came ready. I just thought it was really funny. So I took a little bit of Brazil home with me last time.
That's legit.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to get my band out there. Like I said, new album that I'm going to be dropping here soon called Order Through Chaos. All violin metal album. And I did the majority of the guitar parts on it. I had my live band here. It consists of some guys out of a band called Futilitarian, Mr. Aaron Arthur Paul and Mr. Chad George. 2 guitar players, very talented guys. They just released a song. Go listen to it. A Futilitarian. And then my bass player, Steve, used to play in this deathcore band called Deathscape. And they're not around anymore, recently disbanded. But him and his friend, Jesus, who is like one of the first people I met that opened me up to a broader network of metal musicians. They were in my band as well. And Jesus stepped down, but he's like the auxiliary guitar player. If one of the guitar players can't make it, he knows all the riffs because he was like one of the first ones that learned them.
Yeah.
So it's cool. And then like I have the drummer, Greg Silva. He's in a local band called Crushed. And like
I've heard of them.
10 different other bands. Greg's like, do not ask Greg to be in your band because he will say yes, and I will be mad at you. But Greg's like workhorse. He's like having band practice like 4 to 5 times a week, you know, and he's I'm grateful to have him because he's like a wonderful showman on stage. But yeah, we did like a couple covers, and for the most part, I tracked vocals, violin, electric violin, acoustic violin, and then hired the drummer from Born of Osiris to do the majority of the record Cameron Loesch.
No shit.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds good too.
Oh shit! For people who don't know who that band is, go check them out. They're fucking great.
Yeah. Super nice guy, super accessible. It's not like I have any like personal relationship with him that allows me in. Like he just advertised on his Instagram, "Hey, I'm off tour and I'm available for session work." And so like, several songs later, now he's like, he came through and they played I think it was El Rey, and I got to talk to him and we got to hang out for the first time. So shout out Cameron. You're freaking awesome.
Shit.
So yeah, and then we're doing a couple covers. We did Devil Went Down to Georgia, and then we did Roots by Sepultura, and Greg played drums on those. So and then the guitar players played, and then Steve, my bass player, he played bass pretty much for the whole record.
Damn.
So, but yeah, Cameron Loesch.
Do you have a projected release date for that?
So it'll be at the latest late February.
Nice.
So like 6 weeks.
Well, before we get out of here, I think it's a great transition if you want to display anything because you brought the fiddle with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever you would like to display, my friend.
So I came in through here, and through Heritage Hotels, I was able to make a relationship with the CEO, Mr. Jim Long there. And I got sponsored, and they helped pay for half of my violin that I have here, and this is my dream instrument.
That's awesome.
And I keep all the rosin on it because I'm a hillbilly. And
so for people to know what is rosin?
Rosin is like tree sap, and it basically condenses down and it makes it sticky. So there's friction, so it scratches the strings when you pull it across the strings. The bow, that is, the hair that's on the bow across the strings. So, and then it comes off white. It looks like Scarface sneezed on my violin. But everyone, like a classical violinist, it's like one of those things to always keep it clean. And like, I get it. But like, my heroes were hillbillies. Like I said, there's like Charlie Daniels. And it was just completely white on theirs. And so I'm like, I think it kind of looks cool. But yeah, others will disagree, and I don't care.
I think it looks fucking badass.
But anyway, yeah.
Do whatever you got to do, man.
Yeah, man. So right before I do this, I'm in Albuquerque now, living here for a while. Went over to Rio Grande Studios, and I met Kenny Riley. And the first time we worked together, it was like a train wreck. We didn't. I was like steadfast on what I wanted to do, and he was steadfast on what he wanted to do, and it just didn't work out. And he said I was like the only one that walked out of his studio like dissatisfied with the session, and like we didn't talk for like 5 years, and I was like, I was mad at him, and I'm sure there was like a weird, like kind of bad blood between us. And he called me up like a year ago, and he was like, "Hey Sage, come by the studio, let's make it right." So I was like, "All right, cool, man." And at this point, it's like 5 years had gone down like super fast, right? I was ready to just bury it because like all my homies that were doing stuff all recorded with him. So I was like, God, if he's such an asshole, then why is all my friends going to him? Like, maybe I could be the problem.
Yeah.
So anyway, went over there, and Kenny's so rad, dude. Like, he was gracious in that he heard me out, I heard him out, and we made a deal to like, go forward. And he was like, shook my hand. There was no hesitation. He was like, I just want to work with you.
Sounds like him.
Let's get some shit done.
Yeah.
Bygones be bygones. I don't have time for the drama. And I was like, good. I don't either. So now we're like best buddies. And I think it's funny because like he's one of my favorite people in that he's so real, and he just is like flat out, straight out, will tell you what he thinks. And that's like the only thing he really asks for is the same in return. Is like, just being clear, like being direct, and even if it's like, we're not trying to hurt feelings, we're just tell me what you think.
Yeah.
So now it's like we have a record that we're going to put out here soon. And yeah, dude, Kenny's he's like the evil scientist that lives here. And I remember him telling me, he was like, "We don't make excuses for our music, Sage. When you hand people your CD, you have no excuses. I want you to be like, fuck you, fight me." And I was like, "You're perfect. Oh my God." And some people say like, who you choose to like work with as a producer, like it really, you're capturing their personality as well as yours through the speakers. And so to have somebody like, that's willing to like let his hair down, pull out his sword, and charge into battle, I'm like, that's exactly how I am, dude. Like that, I'm so happy that I found somebody.
Hey, if you want to lose the headset, totally cool. Whatever you're comfortable with doing.
Okay, cool, man.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man. So it's like, now that we're working together, and bygones are bygones, and I think the funniest part too is that we always talk about it. We always talk about like, you know, when we were mad, like we were mad at each other or we had our breakup, and it's so stupid, you know. Now it's like hindsight. It's just like, oh my god, all right, we got over ourselves, and now we're like working together.
It's awesome,
you know. So let me. So this is a 7-string electric violin with frets, flying V, and so like a conventional violin, it only has 4 strings, right? And then this one goes down even lower. Let me see here. There we go. Let me do this. There we go. There we go. And then I kick on my wah on my. So anyway, it's kind of like a little demo of it, you know. I just brought my little amp and it's not mic'd up properly, but just so like the visual aspect of you see what's happening. So, but yep, that's
No, fuck that. That was awesome. Awesome. Yeah. America. That was fucking cool, man. Fucking.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Glad you enjoyed it.
That was kick ass.
Yeah. Like I said, new violin metal record coming out. I differentiate myself by playing rhythm metal riffs, and there's not a whole lot of other violinists that are doing that right now. Mr. Earl Manine is like one of very few. I want to shout out to him, and he plays 7-string electric violin as well. He has his own metal band and is also playing with the Vitamin String Quartet, and he's a badass. But I remember Googling up Lamb of God or metal violin rhythm. You know, and he was like one of the only ones that was doing it. I think he played like some Lamb of God song on a 6-string electric, and I was like, I want to do that. You know, so now it's like I'm here under that kind of influence, and I want to bring the chug and the rhythm to the violin community, because there's a lot of TikTok violinists and stuff that'll like, you know, playing up here and playing solo and stuff, but there's like rarely a whole lot of other violinists that are playing down low and like living down here. You know, and I see people kind of venture down here every now and then, and they come right back up, and they're like, okay, back to where home base is. And that's home base for me, but like, I live down here. Like, I practice every day down here. And so, like, I want to be that, I don't know, like, bring somewhere between Dimebag Darrell, Eddie Van Halen, and Charlie Daniels, and then just, like, throw that all together and see what happens.
Fucking hell of a combination, man.
Well, I'm not saying that I'm as good, but I just do it in the way that I do it, and it brings me happiness and strength, and I don't care what people think.
I think that's a perfect way to end it right there.
Fuck yeah,
dude. That was kick ass.
Oh yeah, man.
That's fucking amazing. This has been an awesome conversation. I want to do it again.
Yeah.
This has been a fucking pleasure, dude.
Well, thank you for having me, bro, and
Thank you for
let
coming
me
in.
kind of tell my story and stuff. I don't know. I'm hoping that in terms of flow, it flows right. Where
this was phenomenal.
People are enjoying it and not just being like, dude, listen to this narcissistic asshole talk about himself.
No, there are a lot of words I would use to describe you after this 2-hour conversation, but narcissism is not one of them.
It's been 2 hours?
A little bit, yeah.
Dang, dude. Right on. This will be a good little chunk. I can't wait to see what little clips you post from this.
I'm excited to clip. This is going to be I love 99.999% of the episodes that I do. Some of them are harder to clip than others, but the hard ones to clip because there's so many fucking kick-ass moments.
Yeah.
This is one of them.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
This is the
I
shit.
hope so, brother.
Before we get out of here, where can everyone find you on social media? Where can they stream your music? All of that.
So just type in my name, Sage Cornelius, Cornelius, or just go onto Google and type in Rage, WIT Sage. That's kind of like my other moniker. I'll be posting on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, but my most active is Instagram, which is Rage, RAGEWIT Sage. Rage with Sage.
Hell yeah.
So, and then I have links navigating to all my Spotify and iTunes and everything. And my music's available. I have, I think, 3 songs out right now that are on all platforms.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, all violin metal stuff. And then the plan is after the violin metal album, I'm doing an album that's completely not metal. And just to show like people like I'm not just a violin metal player. Like I can play bluegrass, play hip hop, I can play, whatever else.
That's very apparent after this conversation. You're a very talented guy.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. And I'm excited to show you some tunes too.
I'm excited, man.
Hell yeah.
Well, hey, thank you everyone for listening and watching. Thank you again for coming in, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Later.
That was awesome, dude.
Hell yeah, bro.